Happy hour at Walters is from 4 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. $5 specials on draft beers, house wine, and rail cocktails. Walters is located just across the street from the ballpark.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
The 1-0. So a long drive. Left center field. Toward the bullpen it goes. And this one is gone. Off the back wall of the Diamondbacks bullpen. And the Nationals have tied the game. Dylan Cruz has homered against Rodriguez again. It's 2-2. Home run number 8 for Dylan Cruz. A smash off the back of the bullpen wall. Here's the pitch. Sweeper hit in the air deep left field. James Wood back. He's got to play. He'll make the catch, but Marte will tag at third, and he will come in to score. The Diamondbacks have a 3-2 lead here in the 7th.
Here's the pitch. Swinging a ground ball to the right side. Marte backs up into the outfield grass, has it, straightens, and throws to the first baseman, Ildemaro Vargas, and the game is over. The Diamondbacks take game 1 of this big series. They win their 4th straight, their 10th in their last 12 games, and take game 1 of this series.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He's at Nationals Park, where we on Friday evening had a big game, one of what may well be many big games for the Nats down the stretch of MLB's 2026 regular season. Game 1 of maybe the Nats' biggest series since the 2019 World Series. 3-game series against the Arizona Diamondbacks at Nationals Park. Official attendance, 36,065. We had a post-game Jason Derulo concert, but the Nats did lose. A 3-2 loss. They're now back at 500, 52 and 52 run differential of plus 25. Diamondbacks now 55 and 49 despite a run differential of plus 2. But the Nats now are 3 games behind the Diamondbacks for the National League's 3rd of 3 wildcard spots. Good to have you with us. This episode of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas. He is the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across Washington, D.C. and the country. You can reach Mason at 202-486-3535. So the Nats now have the exact opposite record at home as they do on the road. Just 20 and 32 at home versus 32 and 20 on the road. The lack of success at home, given that success on the road, remains baffling. The good news is that the Nats' run prevention lately has been really good. The Nats, over their last 5 games now, have allowed just 16 runs. But Mark, the Nats' great offense, which was especially good in the team's 4-2 trip out west, not so good on Friday evening.
No, non-existent, aside from one big swing by Dylan Cruz. And, you know, this home record disparity with the road record, I think what's striking about it is it's not like they're getting blown out at home often. It does happen from time to time. Most of these losses have been close games, and usually close games that are decided late. Now, sometimes, maybe more often than not, that's been a result of the bullpen not being able to hold a lead. In this one, it really was a case of the offense, despite plenty of opportunities to come through, just did not do it. And, you know, you can say, well, that's not the norm. You should normally expect that this lineup will score a lot of runs, and that's true. But I think Dylan Cruz put it best afterwards. He said they need to start winning one-run games, especially at home.
Honing in on these home games and really capitalizing on some big moments here. And
whether that's pitching execution, defensive execution, or offensive execution, that's how you make the playoffs, by winning close games late. And that's a step that this young team has still not been able to take.
So the Nats' record in one-run games isn't that bad, 13 and 14. But it is still really odd that this team with this great offense doesn't have a walk-off win this season. And that came up during manager Blake Buter's post-game press conference on Friday night.
Definitely know we haven't had a walk-off this year. Maybe it's a little bit of pressing. I know how badly these guys want to win. I think once we get one, they'll come in bunches.
You know, as you watch this game, was there anyone who didn't expect the Nats at some point to bust out in one of the latter innings? I mean, a run total of 2 you just don't expect with this offense. It's not like the Nats didn't have opportunities. It's not like the Nats didn't have base runners. I mean, I look at the Diamondbacks starting pitcher, Eduardo Rodriguez. So his final line ends up being 2 runs in 6 innings. He gave up 7 hits, issued 3 walks. He over his 6 innings through 98 pitches. Now, look, this is a good veteran pitcher. He's having a good season. His ERA now is 2.65 over 21 games, all starts. But the Nats did a good job against Rodriguez of getting on base, making him work. Now, I'll give Rodriguez credit. You know, he changes speeds, he misses barrels, he does the kind of things that a veteran pitcher does. But it's like the opportunities against Rodriguez were there. And then against the Diamondbacks bullpen, it felt like the Nats were in a rush to get to dinner after the game or something. I mean, you know, all of the great working of counts against Rodriguez like evaporated against that Arizona bullpen.
Yeah, I've got them seeing 8 pitches in the 7th, 7 pitches in the 8th, and 9 pitches in the 9th. 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3. And I get it. Relievers can be tough to face, and a lot of times these guys come in pumping heat. But yeah, work the count. Find a way to, in a 1-run game, get on base. Maybe you can then make something happen once you get on, and they just had nothing there. And if you want to look at the at-bats against Rodriguez, you know, I'll look at 2 in particular, and there are others that we can point to as well. But twice in the game, they had 2 runners in scoring position, in fact, in both the 1st and the 6th, each time with 1 out. In that situation, what does it call for? Put the bat on the ball, get the lead runner home at least. And in each case, they struck out. C.J. Abrams in the 1st and Harry Ford in the 6th. I can't pick on C.J. Abrams. He's had a phenomenal season, and I'm not going to point at one at bat as, you know, erasing everything else good that he's done. But that's a big strikeout in the moment. And Harry Ford, we're still getting to learn him and what he can do for this team. But again, in that spot, get the bat on the ball, try to get that runner home some way that you can, and he didn't, and it sets the table then for the guys behind them not to drive in those runs. So a close game like this, it does come down often to 1 or 2 key at-bats, and when you've got 2 runners in scoring position, less than 2 outs, your job is get that lead runner home at least, and they failed to do that twice.
Yeah, I mean, given how prolific the Nats have been in first innings this season, they in the bottom of the 1st get a leadoff single from James Wood and a 1-out double from Andres Chaparro. You see 2nd and 3rd with 1 out, and you're like, okay, I mean, the Nats are going to at least score a run in this inning, maybe 2, maybe more. I said to myself, Abrams about to homer. Like, this is what we've seen happen so many times. There's going to be a 3-run shot from C.J. Abrams. We will have Washington 3, Arizona nothing at the end of 1. We did not have that. So the Nats for the game, 2 runs, 7 hits, which were a homer, a double, and 5 singles, 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. Did draw 3 walks. The homer did come from Dylan Cruz. He was the Nats starting right fielder and number 5 batter, 2 for 4 with a solo homer and a single. He and the Nats 2-run 4th had a 2-run homer to left field to tie the game at 2. The homer went a projected 405 feet per StatCast. So Dylan Cruz still is having a hard time hitting for power, but he, for this month of July, does have an on-base percentage of .358. He's doing some good things in this month of July. He's drawing walks at a clip that we had not seen previously, so that has been nice, and obviously good to see him homer as we beg to see as much power as possible from Dylan Cruz.
He crushed that one, and that was a pitch up in the zone and over the plate, and he put a really good swing on it, and you see what he can do. He's also got good numbers now against lefties for the season. Against righties, not so much. And I asked him about that afterward. He felt like it's not so much a different in his swing as it is the pitches that he is swinging at. And I think he feels like he's doing a better job at forcing pitches over the plate against lefties than he is against righties.
I think it's just about swinging at the right pitches. You know, I think the swing is the same. It's just I think it's about toning it in a little bit more against righties compared to lefties. I do a good job of that, but yeah, I think against righties, it's really just sticking to the plan up there and making the pitcher come to the heart of the plate.
And I don't know the breakdown of those walks you're talking about, how many of them come off lefties versus off righties, but I would not be surprised if there's more of them against lefties. He seems to be seeing the ball better against them, working better at bats. The challenge now is do that against righties as well. We've seen when he gets especially a fastball over the heart of the plate or up in the zone, he can do some real damage to those. His number one issue has been either not making good contact on pitches on the edges, or worse than that, swinging and missing at pitches out of the zone. Slowly but surely, he's getting there. Certainly against lefties, it's been good. Against righties, it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, his OPS against left-handed pitching is 966, outstanding. His OPS against right-handed pitching is 521, which is really bad. The walk breakdown actually is 7 walks drawn against lefties, 7 walks drawn against righties. So it actually is an even split. But his OPS now in this latest stint at the major league level is 667. No, that's not good, but that's a lot better than what that OPS was. His OPS started with a 5 for way too long, and now at least he's got that well into the 6s. And I know people get tired of hearing this. I certainly get tired of saying this, but if you look at the quality of contact, it is there. And a quick way to check this is you look at his weighted on-base average versus his expected weighted on-base average. Expected WOBA is based on quality of contact. So coming into this game, his actual WOBA was 289. You read weighted on base just like a basic batting average, but it's a better stat than batting average. So the actual weighted on base was 289. The expected weighted on base was 323, and that was prior to this game on Friday evening. So a 34-point difference between what the WOBA is versus what the WOBA should be. And it just tells you, like, hey, this guy is doing some good things, and the results you would hope at some point come. But I know we've all been waiting for that. Maybe we're in the process of seeing that.
But I think the key there, we hear this all the time. He's making great contact. It should lead to better results. Yes, but I don't think he's making enough contact. The key there is when he makes contact, he does have and should even have better results than this. He just needs to make contact more, and that involves a better eye at the plate, swing at better pitches, because as you said, when he does connect with the ball, he hits it hard, has been hitting in the air a lot more than maybe he did a year ago. Now it's about swinging at the right pitches so that you get a higher percentage of your swings result in that loud contact that you're talking about.
It's so tricky with Dylan Crews. Like, if we took a poll on, is he going to work out or is he not going to work out? I'm not sure how I'd vote at this point, honestly, because there are things to like and the talent is undeniable. But at the same time, I do find myself coming back to this. It shouldn't take this long and it shouldn't be this hard for a guy who was supposed to be major league ready, for a guy who was a number 2 overall pick. You're just like, it shouldn't be this much of like a struggle session, for this guy to really get going at the major league level. But there are things to like. And it's like, okay, if it just clicks the way we all want it to click, this guy could take off and ascend. But we're still waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, and he's said all the right things. He seemed to have a good attitude about it this year. It's been different than what we saw in spring training and late last season when he was really struggling. I think he has bought into the idea of the process over the results, but he's a competitor too. He wants results, especially in these important games that they're now counting on him. He's batting 5th for them in a game between 2 wild card contenders. And yes, 2-run homer is great. He also singled later in the game, but more than anything, he wants to come out of this with a win. And, that didn't happen. And I wonder deep down inside how he's feeling about it. Is he content with the process that he's put together, or is he saying to himself, I should be better than this. Why am I not better than this?
The only other Nat who had more than one hit in this game was C.J. Abrams. He is a Nat starting shortstop, and number 4 batter went 2 for 4 with 2 singles. Hey, are you a law firm partner looking for a better team? Take your 900 OPS to a championship caliber team by contacting Nats Chat sponsor Mason Kalfas, who is the top legal recruiter in the Washington, D.C. market. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across D.C. and the country. Zenith has placed attorneys at almost every top law firm in D.C. and New York. And unlike your current firm's innovation committee, Zenith actually built technology that works. Zenith's proprietary candidate app lets lawyers track where they've been submitted and helps Mason's team identify the best opportunities faster and more efficiently. No other legal recruiting firm has anything like this. And if your current partnership meetings feel more hopeless than Mets fans in October, it may be time to make a move. Bet on yourself with the best legal recruiter out there advocating for your future. Call Mason Kalfas today, 202-486-3535. That's 202-486-3535.
If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and 1 spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you one flexible platform built to grow with you. Learn more at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Littell extreme first base side of the slab. Now delivers and a bunt try up the first base line. It's a beauty. They're going to let it roll. It's going to stop on the grass to the left of the dirt channel for a bunt base hit for Tawa. In from third to score is Kepler. Over to third is Locklear. And it's Arizona 1 and Washington nothing. Tim Tawa's 20th RBI of the year on a perfect bunt up the first base line.
So don't blame the Nats pitching for this 3-2 loss to Arizona at Nationals Park on Friday evening. Nats pitching continues to be impressive here lately. The Nats for this game used an opener, relief pitcher Carson Palmquist. Now, he did have some problems. He officially allowed 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. He gave up a double and had 1 strikeout versus 3 walks in throwing 41 pitches, just 23 strikes versus 18 balls. But the bulk man, starting pitcher Zack Littell, came into the game, and he was terrific. Littell officially allowed 1 run in 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, gave up just 4 hits, all of which were singles, no home runs allowed, threw a lot of strikes, 77 pitches, 54 strikes, just 23 balls. We talk about good Littell, bad Littell. This was a very good version of Zack Littell on display in this game.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, the run that was charged against him was he gave a 1-out single, and then Sam Cosgrove gave up the inherited run. Now, he gave up 2 inherited runners that he took over from Carson Palmquist, but look at how those scored. It was on a bunt, perfectly placed safety squeeze, and it's on a grounder to the right side that very nearly was an inning-ending double play. They just didn't quite turn, that Garcia and Abrams were a little slow on the turn. So those aren't Littell's fault at all, and he felt good about this one. He threw his splitter a lot. He kind of made that a priority to throw more. You saw good success with it. Gave them the length that you would hope for in this kind of situation. I'm coming back to the opener thing with Palmquist. He faces 8 batters, only retires 3 of them. Walked 3, gave up a couple of hits. And I know, because Blake Butera basically said this before the game even started, that the plan was essentially he's going to face all their left-handed hitters until they get through the order once. And so that's why Littell comes in, 3 batters into the second. It felt like you're pushing it. And maybe Littell would have had the same problem, but he certainly didn't have any issue, for the most part, facing the Diamondbacks left-handed hitters the rest of the way, facing them multiple times. Are we overthinking this at some point to put the lefty out there to open the game who didn't actually get the lefties out and forced Littell to come into a jam situation in which the 2 inherited runners score? I get that Zack Littell has had all kinds of issues keeping the ball in the park and everything else, but barring a really quality left-handed option, I'm just not sure it's really worth it. And there's a lot of other factors that go into this, but the team is now 0-5 in the games that Carson Palmquist has opened. Now, maybe that's a reflection of who else has come after him. And in this case, it's more about the Nats offense or lack of it than pitching. But he did essentially put them in a 2-0 hole by not pitching all that well in his 1+ innings on the mound.
Well, his stats as an opener are really bad. I mean, he has opened 5 games. His ERA is 10.45. That goes against all of the teachings of the opener strategy. That goes against all of the principles of the church of the opener. I mean, that's not how that's supposed to go. An ERA at 10.45 over 5 starts, 12 runs allowed in 10 and the third innings, 15 hits to go with 5 walks. I've said this, and I do come back to this. the opener strategy when it started was not so much a lefty-righty thing as it was just a strikeout thing, and you get a flame-throwing reliever in there. And I think sometimes the Nats are a little too beholden to platoon splits and the lefty-righty matchups instead of just, is the guy good or not? Does he get outs or not? And, with Palmquist, I feel like more often than not, these opener outings have not gone well, or at the very least, he has a scoreless first inning, and then it's beyond that you maybe have some trouble. But, even in this game, that first inning, it's not like he was lights out in that first inning, got out of it unscathed, but Palmquist is far from impressive in that first inning.
Let's be honest here. We're talking about a borderline big league pitcher in Carson Palmquist, who is on this team. As we know, they have one of the worst bullpens in baseball. How many other big league teams would he make their roster? That's fine. Everybody's going to have somebody like that on their team. But you're essentially saying, okay, this guy who is a fringe big leaguer, we're now going to put you out there against the other team's best hitters in the first inning and maybe beyond and try to keep this thing in check before we then go to our starter. And I don't know this is really working to the extent that they would want it to. PJ Poulin has done a nice job when he's open. Unfortunately, he's on the IL right now. But with him gone, is it really worth it just because you have another lefty to say, okay, you're going to go face this, you're going to do the same role? Not everybody's cut out for it. And it's not even just a lefty-righty thing. It's, as you said, just are you good or not? Nothing against Carson Palmquist, but he's barely a big leaguer, if that. And now you're saying, hey, go get some of the best hitters in the league out and get us off on the right foot. At some point, you may have to say, it's actually not worth it. Let's just try the starter and hope that he can be good enough. Or, like you said, maybe it's a Clayton Beater or an Orlando Ribalta in the first inning. I don't know how that would go, but I don't know that continuing to do this same thing again that they've been doing is going to work. And it's going to come up 2 days from now when Michaelis starts the series finale. I'll be fascinated to see how they handle that one.
It's going to be really interesting next season. First of all, how good the bullpen is. But second of all, to what extent do the Nats employ the opener strategy? Do they have guys who are better suited for the opener role? Do we see the team up the strikeout rate for the relief pitching to where you can do the opener strategy in a proper way, to where you get someone who, routinely gets multiple strikeouts in opening games? To what extent is the opener strategy a this season thing because of the composition of the roster versus to what extent is the opener thing a thing because the new front office very much believes in this as a strategy and that this is going to be a staple for the Nats moving forward with Paul Taboni as president of baseball operations?
I was about to ask that exact same question. I don't know the answer to that. I would think that if they have the right arms and 5 quality starting pitchers, that they believe in that concept more. I think this is a reflection of what they have to work with, particular Michaelis and Littell. But I don't know. We'll see if it comes to that. I would love for them to be in a scenario where they have 5 real starting pitchers and they don't even think they have to consider this. And if they do, then maybe it does mean that they actually believe in the concept. But my hunch is that it's more a reflection of what they have. And if they had something better, they wouldn't necessarily do this.
Well, the Nats, beyond the opener, Carson Palmquist and the bulk man, Zack Littell, used 3 pitchers in this 3-2 loss to the Diamondbacks at Nationals Park on Friday evening. Tom Cosgrove officially tossed a third of a scoreless inning, but he and the Diamondbacks 1-run 7th faced 3 batters, got just 1 out, gave up a 1-out single, issued a 1-out walk to load the bases, and gave up a 1-out RBI sac fly to put the Diamondbacks up 3-2. Orlando Ribalta tossed 1 1/3 scoreless innings with 3 strikeouts, so another good outing for him. Now, he came into the game in the top of the 7th with runners on first and second, 2 outs, and the Nats down 3-2. He, on the very first pitch that he threw, gave up a double steal, although, of course, it's not all on him. And he, to the first batter he faced, issued a 2-out, 4-pitch walk of Nolan Arenado to load the bases. So Ribalta wasn't perfect, but he worked his way out of that jam, and yet another instance of this guy working magic with the bases loaded. Ribalta's been magnificent in these spots. And he then tossed a scoreless top of the 8th with 3 strikeouts, and then Max Kranick tossed a perfect top of the 9th. So all things considered, Cosgrove, Ribalta, Kranick getting the job done.
Yeah, Cosgrove gave up the inherited runner, but again, it's not all going to be perfect. Ribalta's really kind of coming to his own here. After a rough stretch they had at one point prior to the All-Star break, it's been much better here lately. I'm glad to see that, and I'm really glad that he's getting swings and misses. we've talked about, he looks like this big imposing figure on the mound who has good stuff, but for whatever reason, he's not really been a strikeout guy. He's starting to do that. We saw that in Colorado, and you saw it in this game with the 3 strikeouts in the 8th inning. I hope that continues, because that would bode really well for him to become a long-term late inning reliever for this team. If you have that kind of ability, both to get out of jams and the ability to strike guys out, that would be fantastic. Not the bullpen's fault. I mean, technically they take the loss, but not really the bullpen's fault, I don't think, this one.
Very good crowd at Nationals Park. A big game for the Nats from a standing standpoint. Did it feel like a big game at Nationals Park? How would you say the atmosphere was?
I'm going to say it didn't feel like as much as you might imagine with a crowd of 36,065. And the reason I'm going to suggest that is that I don't know what percentage of the crowd was true, but I can tell you because the post-game concert is still going on as we record this. And there was a large number of fans still here. The entire lower deck is filled, plus some of the 200 and 300 sections as well. It felt to me like a lot of these people were here for the concert more than the game, a late arriving crowd on a Friday night, and some of those late inning moments that you thought might get people fired up didn't quite feel like a real baseball crowd. I'm just saying that maybe the team's performance had something to do with it. Those last couple innings flew by, as we talked about. So it's not like there was a real opportunity to get the crowd even going with it. But there's one at bat in the 9th. Luis Garcia hits it off the bat. And just on the sound of it, you think, oh, he just tied the game. And the ball died because the wind was actually blowing in from right field and it was up in the air too high and it brought it back. I feel like on other nights with that size of a crowd, you would hear more of an explosion off the bat and then a real disappointment when it was caught. And this one seemed a little less into it. Just theorizing here, and I'm not saying it's a problem. It's nice to get a nice big crowd, and there are a lot of different types of people who come to baseball games. But it did feel to me like this was, like a large portion of this crowd was more about the post-game concert than the game itself.
Be interesting to see the crowds for the rest of this series. Foster Griffin is the Nats starting pitcher for Game 2, so you'd like to think the Nats have a pretty good shot of winning that game. Certainly Griffin has been on a roll lately. Nats Diamondbacks at Nationals Park Saturday afternoon at 4:05. Foster Griffin is listed as the Nats' probable starting pitcher for the game.
Queen Carvania stood haloed by the morning sun. An army hung on her every word.
My champions, I have sold my chariot on Carvana. 'Twas a lovely SUV, an inexplicably queenly offer. They're even coming to the castle to collect it. Tonight, we feast. An offer you can feast on. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
With the 11th pick of the 2026 MLB Draft, the Washington Nationals select Chris Hacopian, a second baseman from Texas A&M. The Los Angeles Angels have the next pick.
It's such a blessing. I mean, to grow up a fan and to come to this park, multiple times as just a fan in the crowd, and now to be a player, parking in the player lot. My family's under the tunnel, and it's really exciting. I'm really grateful.
Now, prior to the game on Friday evening, we had a press conference for the man who the Nats took with the number 11 overall pick in the 2026 MLB first-year player draft, second baseman Chris Hacopian out of Texas A&M University. Hacopian from Potomac, Maryland, went to Winston Churchill High School in Potomac, grew up as a Nats fan. His dad, Derek Hacopian, a legendary player for the University of Maryland. I'll tell you my two favorite moments from the press conference. Number one, Chris Hacopian calling our own Tim Shover sir when asked a question by Tim.
Did you attend in person any 2019 playoff games?
No, sir.
I enjoyed that very much. Tim, you now officially are a sir, at least according to Chris Hacopian. My second favorite part of the presser was this. Hacopian talking about how he and other draftees of the Nats were approached.
Overall, the player plan was, this is what you do good, and this is what you don't do good, and this is how we're going to attack that. And it was offensively and defensively.
These guys were down at the complex in Florida, and how the Nats are very upfront with these guys, but also very specific with these guys. And Hacopian outlined it, I thought, very well. Here's what you do well. Here's what you do poorly. Here is our plan for you. Here's how we're going to make you better. And I loved hearing that. I think that's exactly the way to do that. I think that's another sign of the improved process for the Nats. That really stood out to me, hearing Chris Hacopian talk about that.
Yeah, and he mentioned a little bit of that, too, back on draft day and talking about the presentation, very thorough presentation that the front office gave to him. And it sounds like a lot of the potential draft picks who came in prior to draft day. And that really stood out to him compared to the other teams that he met with. And what I'll tell you is that it's great for him and these other kids who are down there now in West Palm Beach just getting started. But they try to do the same thing with all their big leaguers as well. It really is organization-wide that they're doing this. And what I have found in just the few months that this has all been in place is that the players who come here, and there have been a good number of players who have shown up here out of other organizations, often, retreads or, released by this team, and that's claim them off waivers, that kind of stuff. They come here and they're very impressed with the methods and the messaging that the Nationals are giving them about how they're going to try to help them get better. And I think what the underlying thing out of all this is, yes, there's a lot of analytics to it all and a lot of data and information, all these things that they're doing in a new school way. But at the heart of it also is a humanity, in that they are treating these people as human beings and saying, we're going to help you get better. We want you to have success here. And what that's doing in turn is it's making these guys want to be here and stay here. And seems like a small thing. They designated for assignment Justin Lawrence earlier in the week when they had to clear a roster spot. He had a little bit of success here, wasn't that great, a lot of walks. This is the third time he's been DFA'd this year. He ends up clearing waivers, and they outright him to AAA. Now, because he's gone through this process with other teams several times, he had the right, if he wanted to go away and just be a free agent again and sign somewhere else. And he chose to report to AAA, no longer on the 40-man roster. And what I heard about this was that in that exit meeting, as they were DFAing him, he said, I want to stay here. Not just this year, I would love to come back again next year if there's an opportunity. You saw this with Matt Crook after that disaster of a game against the Yankees, and they end up DFAing him. He clears. Well, they had a need when P.J. Poulin got hurt, and he re-signed. He wanted to come back. I'm gathering from a lot of these players that they are really appreciating what they're hearing from the Nationals front office and coaching staff about trying to help them become better players and get the most out of them. And yes, some of that is data-based, but I think a lot of it is on a more emotional human level. I think they're really appreciating the way that these guys are treating them and talking to them through even bad times. That could go a long way in the long run for this organization.
One of the things Ryan Zimmerman talked about last year, I forget where and when he said this, but it was something to the effect of, you need to make the organization a place that people want to be. And you need to make the environment such that players enjoy being here, want to come back here, don't want to leave here. And look, let's be honest, money talks, right? So to attract people, you got to pay them. We understand that. And money probably is at the top of the list for 95% of these guys. But you do want to have an environment that speaks well to guys. And you do want to have an environment in which guys feel like they get maximized and that the best of them is exploited. And if the Nats have that now, which is what we've all been begging for years, that is so good. I know in my experience, in having had the opportunity to work with and talk to athletes, they'll all tell you they want to be coached. They don't mind being told, you don't do this well. Here's how we get you better at this. It's not like you have to walk on eggshells around these guys. You can say, hey, you do this well. You don't do this as well. Here's how we're going to get you to be better. The overwhelming majority of athletes, in my opinion, love that, want to hear that. I think most people want to hear that. How do I get better at what I do? So I just thought that was so cool, the way that Chris Hacopian talked about that. Now, we know that the reporting, including from you, is that the Nats went under slot in signing Hacopian. We saw the Nats last year with Eli Willits go under slot in signing him in order to go over slot with a number of other non-first round picks. And it appears that the Nats have employed that strategy again this year. Is that correct?
Yes, they went under slot on their first two picks, who were both college kids. And then that, in theory, allowed them to go over slot on their third and fourth round picks, who were both high school players. They wound up signing 18 of the 20. The only two they didn't were 16th and 17th rounders, both high schoolers who they probably felt like it was a long shot, but maybe you see if you can convince them to come by offering them a little bit more money than they would get otherwise. But these kids nowadays, there's a lot of enticing reasons to go play in college. And it's not just about the baseball, it's about the finances of that with NIL. But I do think, broadly speaking, there is a philosophy here, and we saw it last year when Mike DeBartolo was in charge, and I think we're seeing a similar thing now, that says if you have college players who don't really have the leverage come draft time to hold out for more, you can often get them for a little bit under slot and then overpay for the high school kids who do have the leverage of, well, hey, I made a commitment to insert SEC, ACC school, whatever it may be. But if you offer me enough, I may come sign with you and become a professional. And so it, in theory, allows you to have more front-end talent and drafting guys in later rounds that other teams might be scared off of because they think this kid's going to go to college and it's a waste of a pick because we're not going to pay him whatever it would take. They did this a year ago with a pitcher named Miguel Cime Jr., who is now one of the better prospects, was in the futures game. The kid throws 100 miles an hour coming out of high school. They went over slot to get him, and we may be talking about similar things now with their third and fourth round picks this year, and maybe as they move forward in this organization in the draft.
Yeah, so the Nats, with what they did in the 2025 draft, wound up with 5 of MLB Pipeline's top 100 prospects in that draft. And so I think that's a smart way to go about doing this, of look at the overall body of work and what you're able to accumulate. And of course, with the obvious caveat of we don't know what these guys are going to end up being, but you get 5 of Pipeline's top 100 guys. I mean, I think that's a smart way to go about doing this. Neither Eli Willits nor Chris Hacopian, a Scott Boras client, which I'm assuming is part of this, correct?
Yeah, it can be. But I think also if you're a Boras client and you came out of college, you don't have a whole lot of other options. They tend to get paid pretty well. But yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting if they had a later round, like a number 11 pick instead of number 1 pick, and it was Boras. Would that be any different? I'm not sure. I did think to myself, Chris Hacopian is with Casey Close, longtime prominent agent, used to be CAA and is now Excel Sports. Now, I don't know what kind of star player he's going to be or not, but it did make me think, if you're the Nationals and this kid makes it to the big leagues quickly, lock him up right away. See if you can pull one of those off. Now, we got so far to go until this even becomes a thing, and you don't even consider this until he proves himself as a professional ball player. But in theory, hometown kid, comes out of college, first round pick, not represented by Scott Boras. If ever there was a candidate to try to do something like that with, check back here in a couple of years and maybe that's something we'll be talking about.
This is what the Nats should be doing with Eli Willits. Paul Taboni should be talking with Eli Willits and his representation now about how doable a contract extension is. I mean, Willits to me just screams of doing that. We shall see. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. By the way, we got this email from Thomas Buckley late night on Friday night. We have the worst home record in all of baseball. Even the homeless A's have a better home record than us. Great point. That is true. The homeless A's, the team with no home, has a better home record than the Nats have. That's got to change. Check out our website as well, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. This installment of Nats Chat is brought to us by the great Mason Kalfas. He is the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across Washington, D.C. and the country. You can reach him at 202-486-3535. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, for Sir Tim Shovers, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Danny Espinosa gave me a follow, which was sweet. And then Howie Kendrick sent me a message on Instagram. And that was really cool because I grew up watching him. I grew up watching him hit that grand slam in the World Series, and to get a message from a Washington legend like that is really cool.
Outside target, Chirinos, the pitch. Swinging a line drive, slice down the right field line toward the corner. Springer back, looking up, and this one is gone. It hits the foul pole, and the Nationals lead. Howie Kendrick has done it again. A slicing 2-run homer off the right field foul pole.